A man stood in the witness box of a Los Angeles courtroom in 1929. He had fired 3 lawyers. He had refused all legal counsel. He was both the defendant and his own attorney. He was on trial for the murders of children. And he was about to take the stand as his own witness to question himself. He swore himself in. He stepped into the witness box. And then he looked at himself, in his own seat at the defense table, and he asked himself the first question. This is the Wineville Chicken Coop Murders. Part 3. The final part. Gordon Stewart Northcott was 23 years old when his trial began on January 23, 1929. He had been extradited from Canada in handcuffs. He had been formally charged with the murders of the Winslow brothers and the boy known only as the Mexican headless body. The Walter Collins murder was a separate set of charges. His mother Sarah had already pled guilty in a separate proceeding and accepted a life sentence in San Quentin. From the moment Gordon entered the courtroom, the proceedings became surreal. He fired his first lawyer over a disagreement on tactics. He fired the second for, in his words, lacking imagination. The third lawyer he kept for 2 days before dismissing him as well. He told the judge he would conduct his own defense. The judge tried to talk him out of it. He insisted. The trial was a circus. Northcott called himself as his first witness. He stood at the defense table, asked himself a question, then walked to the witness box, sat down, and answered it. Then he walked back to the table to ask the next question. The court reporter could not keep up. The judge eventually had to instruct the bailiff to escort him back and forth so that the record would be clear. He cross-examined every witness with rambling, paranoid theories. He accused the police of planting bones. He accused Sanford Clark of inventing the murders out of revenge for being disciplined. He accused his own mother of framing him. He accused, at one point, the prosecutor's wife of being involved. When Sanford Clark took the stand, he was 15 years old. He sat in a wooden chair across from the man who had imprisoned him for 2 years. Gordon questioned him for 6 hours. Sanford did not break. He recounted the murders. He named the victims. He described the Bruder house, the axes, the quicklime, the burials. He cried only once, when describing what had happened to his sister's safety after she filed her statement. The defense rested without calling anyone but Gordon himself. The jury deliberated for less than 5 hours. Gordon Stewart Northcott was convicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to be hanged at San Quentin State Prison. The trial had lasted 27 days. In the months that followed his conviction, while waiting on death row, Gordon's behavior shifted constantly. He confessed in writing to 20 murders. He retracted the confessions. He confessed again, with more victims, and gave specific locations. He retracted those too. He told one reporter he had killed children for years. He told another that he was an innocent man framed by a conspiracy of homosexuals and Catholics. The state never recovered most of the bodies he claimed. On October 2, 1930, he was led from his cell to the gallows. Witnesses described him as hysterical. He sobbed. He begged. He had to be strapped to a board and carried up the stairs. On the platform, before the hood went over his head, he reportedly said, "A prayer, please. Say a prayer for me." The trap door opened. He died at 10:13 in the morning. He was 23 years old. And Walter Collins? Walter was never found. Christine Collins refused to believe her son was dead until physical evidence was produced, and physical evidence never was. She continued to write letters to the LAPD, to the governor, to the warden at San Quentin. She filed lawsuits against the police department for her wrongful committal to the asylum. She won her case. She was awarded $10,800 in damages. The LAPD never paid. She died in 1964. Still searching, still unwilling to close the door. In the years after the case, the small town of Wineville quietly petitioned the state of California to change its name. The trial had attached the town's name to so much horror that local property values had collapsed and businesses had shuttered. In 1930, the town of Wineville was officially renamed Mira Loma. If you drive through Mira Loma today, you will not find the chicken ranch. The land was sold and resold. The buildings were torn down. There is no marker. There is no plaque. There is no trace of the Bruder house where children were told, "Come see the baby chicks being born." But the bones are still out there. The land where the ranch stood was never fully excavated. The bodies of Gordon Stewart Northcott's other victims, the ones beyond the 3 murders he was tried for, have never been recovered. Christine Collins never gave up. She lived for 36 more years after Walter disappeared, and she never once said his name in the past tense. 3 children's bodies were found at Wineville. There is reason to believe more were buried, scattered, or destroyed. The full count is something we will never know. This was the Wineville Chicken Coop Murders. Subscribe for new true crime stories every week. Next Saturday, a new case.